Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our English news edition brought to you by Canal Algérie. First, to the headlines. Before submitting it to the upcoming Council of Ministers, Prime Minister, Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdurrahman chairs a cabinet meeting devoted to the Information Project Bill and several key sectors. The Jaish magazine harks back on the AMP National Day decreed by the President of the Republic to highlight the cohesion existing between the military institution and the Algerian people. Fighting terrorism tops the second day of the Africa meeting held in the Italian capital Rome with a particular participation of Algeria's National Army. Good evening, those were today's headlines. First in our news, and on Wednesday, Prime Minister, Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdurrahman chaired a government meeting via video conference, a meeting during which the following points were examined. First, in the communication sector, an information organic draft bill was presented. This draft bill expressed the will of the public authorities to give the revision of the text an innovative character in accordance with the provisions of the November 1st, 2020 Constitution, as well as the changes induced by the technological development and the international standards. Moreover, the elaboration of this organic draft bill is dedicated by the necessity of the implementation of a legislative framework which responds to the citizens' expectations. Within this framework, the draft bill will consolidate the freedom of the print, audiovisual, and electronic press, and to promote a press respectful of ethics. Moving on to the health sector, a draft executive decree setting the list of communicable diseases subject to mandatory reporting, which is part of the implementation of a national policy of control and prevention against the diseases in question. This draft provides the modalities of the revision of the list of notifiable communicable diseases and its updating according to the emergence of the new diseases of the same nature. Concerning the field of youth and sports, a communication was presented on the management of the youth facilities offices and the redeployment of spaces dedicated to the youth. This new approach aims to revitalize the youth facilities and improve their performance. In the sector of the digitization and statistics, a communication was presented on the establishment of the interactive network of statistical information that presents the actions implemented by the same sector, related particularly to the strengthening of institutions' capacities and improving coordination between the actors of the national statistical information system, as well as the development of the interconnection of the national statistical network via digital platforms. Concerning the sector of agriculture, a communication was also presented on the red and white meat production, and during which the indicators of the production channels were examined, as well as the prospects of consolidation and improvement of the availability and accessibility of these projects in favor of the devices implemented for the modernization of these channels through the reinforcement of partnership of all actors. The Jaish magazine has once again highlighted the important role played by our National People's Army, an army that led the greatest revolution of the 20th century. The details with Melissa Kubash.
In its latest issue entitled "Those Who Have Not Learned from the History's Experiences," the Jaish magazine highlighted the mission of our valiant National People's Army, the only army in the world that hasn't been installed via decree. An army that has been serving and protecting our country, as well as preserving our security and stability for the past 60 years. The magazine has also recalled the prominent role of the AMP during the numerous challenges that faced our country, as underlined by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, concerning the spirit of sacrifice anchored in the elements of our army alongside their determination to serve their homeland. In this context, President Tebboune has decreed the 4th of August as the National Day of the AMP so as to concretize the cohesion existing between the Algerian people and their army. The Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saïd Shengriha, underscored for his part that the enemies of our homeland, who have intensified their hostile campaigns against our country, highlighting that the attempts have been thwarted by faithful and devoted men to their country and their commitments. The editorialist recalled the solid links between the army and its people, which will be consolidated despite the several plots. For its part, the Algerian diplomacy has been mobilized to reactivate the importance of Algeria in terms of peace and security maintenance. It is worth recalling that the President of the Republic's visit to Egypt contributed to the unification of positions and the reactivation of Arab action in light of the changes and developments occurring in the world.
The Italian capital, Rome, is hosting the African Chiefs of Defenses Conference organized by the U.S. Military Command in Africa. Representing the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saïd Shengriha, Major General Mahfoud Ben Meddah, the Naval Forces Commander, took part in this conference. The details with Melissa Kubash.
The African Chiefs of Defense Conference, held by the U.S. Military Command in Africa, AFRICOM, and hosted by the Italian capital, Rome, under the motto, Common Investment for a Common Future, focused on ways and means of fighting terrorism in Africa in all its forms, a fight that requires the cooperation of all African countries. Algeria has been represented during this symposium by Major General Mahfoud Ben Meddah, Commander of the Naval Forces, presenting the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saïd Shengriha. According to Major General Mahfoud Ben Meddah, security, coordination, education and development remain the best means to eradicate terrorism and face the dangers related to it.
تعاني إفريقيا في الواقع من ويلات الإرهاب.
Africa is confronted with terrorism, human and arms trafficking, drugs, as well as other border crimes, in addition to climate challenges and their relation with poverty, hunger and illegal immigration. All these phenomena threaten the stability of African countries and worsen security in the African continent.
The Congress was an opportunity to exchange experiences and consolidate cooperation to thwart the numerous security threats facing the African continent.
To COVID-19 updates now, and according to a communique released by the Ministry of Health, 1,365 new confirmed cases of coronavirus, 756 recoveries and 11 deaths were recorded during the last 24 hours in Algeria. Caution and vigilance remain a must, and in order to boost the fight against this virus, the Algerian Muslim Scout in Ouargla province have organized an awareness campaign to stress the necessity of complying with the preventive measures. The details in this report with Ines Kello.
With the rapid spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, prevention remains one of the best measures to avoid contamination, according to specialists. So awareness campaigns are continuing to inform our citizens about the existence of the disease and the necessity to adopt barrier gestures to prevent it. To be honest, as soon as I'm outside, I adopt all the barrier measures against COVID-19. I wear my mask, I disinfect my hands, and I respect the regulatory distance. I apply these instructions to protect myself and my family. I think that vaccination is important, especially for people who have chronic diseases and who are also elderly. The scouts of Ouargla province have volunteered to raise the awareness of the citizens by distributing flyers to inform them of the dangers and risks of the spread of the coronavirus, especially with the new Omicron variant, which is spreading at high speed. Through this awareness campaign, we are trying to make our citizens aware of the importance of respecting the barrier measures, but also to break the chain of contamination, and this can only be done with the efforts of everyone. The aim of this campaign is to prevent and preserve the health of all, namely the understanding and strict enforcement of barrier measures to limit the spread of the virus and its speedy transmission.
The 40th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union kicked off on Wednesday morning in Addis Ababa at the ministerial level. This session comes ahead of the preparation of the 35th Ordinary Session of the Summit of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, scheduled for next Saturday. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Settled Abroad, Ramtan Al-Amamra, along with his African counterparts, will focus on the cooperation between the countries of Africa to face the current security and political challenges, in addition to the economic and health consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. Algeria's Foreign Affairs Minister Ramtan Al-Amamra has already held consultative meetings with his counterparts from Libya, South Africa and Angola. On Wednesday, OPEC and its allies decided to raise the oil output level to 400,000 barrels per day, starting from next March, according to the final communiqué of the 25th ministerial meeting of the alliance held via video conference. For its part, Algeria will reach the production level of 992,000 barrels per day. As part of the fight against terrorism and organized crime, units and detachments of the National People's Army carried out from the 26th of January to the 1st of February 2022 several successful operations reflecting the high professionalism, vigilance and permanent availability of our armed forces throughout the national territory. Ines Killu has more details.
As part of efforts in fighting terrorism, detachments of the National People's Army arrested 8 elements supporting terrorist groups in separate operations across the national territory. As for the fight against organized crime and the relentless efforts aimed at countering the scourge of drug trafficking in our country, combined detachments of the ANP arrested, in coordination with the various security services of the 2nd and 3rd Military Region, 15 drug traffickers and thwarted attempts to introduce large quantities of drugs across the borders with Morocco, amounting to 10 quintals and 53 kilograms of treated Kiev, while 22 other traffickers were arrested in possession of 25 kilograms of the same substance and 355,464 psychotropic tablets seized during various operations carried out across the other military regions. In addition, detachments of the National People's Army intercepted in Tamnast, Ain Gizem, Borj Beji Mukhtar, Janet and Tindouf 58 individuals and seized 11 vehicles, 225 generators, 86 jackhammers, 3 metal detectors, quantities of explosives, detonation tools and other equipments used in gold mining operations, as well as 10 tons of raw gold mixtures and stones, while 13 other individuals were apprehended, in their possession 8 hunting rifles, 2 automatic guns, 51 tons of foodstuffs intended for smuggling, and 10,372 units of tobacco seized in Wergla, Ain Gizem, El-Wed, Biskra, Jilfa, Mini'a, Batna and Tizi Ouzou provinces.
The member of the National Secretariat at the Polisario Front and Ambassador to South Africa, Mohamed Islam Baysat, denounced the crimes of the Moroccan occupation and its blatant human rights violations in the occupied Sahrawi territories. Baysat, who has the Sahrawi delegation to the 40th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union, said that the Moroccan occupier uses drones targeting and killing Sahrawi civilians and foreigners in the same region. Always in Western Sahara, where military operations continue on the ground along the Wall of Shame, units of the Sahrawi Liberation Army bombed units belonging to the Moroccan occupying forces in the regions of Laqad, Akad Arkan and the Mahbas sector. In a new report issued by Amnesty International describes the Zionist occupation policy towards Palestinians as apartheid as they are treated as inferior racial group according to the human rights organization. The Zionist entity's cruel policies of segregation and exclusion are clearly apartheid according to the organization's Secretary General. Normality returned finally to Guinea-Bissau after a failed coup attempt. President Umaro Sissoco Embalo declared that peace has returned finally to the country after Tuesday's failed coup and the situation was under control. On Tuesday, the government palace was under attack for several hours while the president and prime minister were inside. The authorities did not provide information about the victims and who might be behind the attack. That was it for our today's news. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye.